Now shifting focus to updates coming in from the Russia-Ukraine war. It's a battle of attention. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says, reminding the world that the Russian aggression in Ukraine is far from over. And since February 2022, Ukraine has been putting up a tough stand against Russian forces, launching a counter-offensive in spring this year, while President Zelensky acknowledges that it has failed to produce desired results due to enduring shortages of weapons and ground forces. Russia says it has upped its offensive as its troops have been advancing in every section of the Ukrainian front. And the latest major flashpoint is the industrial town of Avdiivka, where Ukraine says it was fending off assaults.
Войск наносят ВСУ эффективное и мощное огневое поражение. В результате их боевые возможности значительно снижены. Наши военнослужащие действуют грамотно и решительно, занимая более выгодное положение, расширяют зоны контроля на всех направлениях.
In the eastern Donetsk region, 3 towns came under simultaneous Russian strikes, killing 1 person while several more were missing. The industrial region has seen some of the fiercest fighting, with the Kremlin claiming to have annexed it last year. Now, Ukrainian forces also say that it has downed 18 of the 25 shared attack drones and 1 of the 2 Kh-59 cruise missiles launched by Russia overnight, and the missiles were fired from planes flying over occupied Kherson. Now, the main direction of the attack was Ukraine's south and east, and the winter set to cloak the wartime Ukraine once again. Bringing in new problems for the besieged country, Zelensky travelled to the front line to boost the morale among his forces, vowing not to back down despite the setback. Now, meeting commanders in the south and east, he urged them to quickly fortify defences across the front line.
Those who are giving their lives for Ukraine, I wish you victory. Stay strong. Don't lose initiative. Defend Kharkiv region. Defend Kupiansk. I know that every day you are losing people that are close to you, your combatants. We all understand this is the highest price to pay.
The White House has said that US is helping prepare Ukraine for expected Russia winter attack, and it fears that Russia will try to destroy Ukraine's critical energy infrastructure. The NATO-Ukraine Council met for the first time at the level of foreign ministers on earlier this week, and members remained steadfast in their commitment to further set up unprecedented military, financial and humanitarian support to Ukraine, and supported the necessary reforms on Ukraine's path to NATO membership.
So this week we had a ministerial meeting, NATO foreign ministers meeting in Brussels, and the clear message from all the allies was that we will continue to support Ukraine because we have to stand in solidarity with Ukraine, defending their territory, their country. So it will be a big tragedy for the Ukrainians if President Putin wins.
Now, for more on this, we were earlier joined by Joachim Bitterlich, former German ambassador to NATO and former European diplomatic and security advisor to German Chancellor. Take a look at what he had to say.
First of all, I'm convinced the recent meeting of NATO foreign ministers had especially one purpose: reassure Ukraine that the Western world is standing with them and continuing to support them. This was the clear message of NATO ministers. Clearly, background Gaza, it's clear. But there was a clear common view of the Europeans in NATO with regard to the Ukraine. There's no problem. Second, the war is developing, let's call it like the First World War, in 1916, 1917. There are less poor offensive steps. The war is rather defensive. The Russians have become better in the last months, yes. They have changed their strategy. They have changed their approach. And it's, let's say, actually it's to some extent, let's call it match nil. There are no more clear Ukrainian advances, and Russian advances or defensive advances are limited. Therefore, the winter will be, as always in that region, a difficult one. And don't forget, World War II, this is the last experience to this regard. The Germans have lost the war in winter in Russia. Ukraine is not far away from that. It's a bit southern, okay, but they lost it too. And it's difficult to fight against Russians in winter. And it will be a much more defensive mood in the winter period than in the past 6 months. I think Zelensky has announced that, let's say, this certain change in his last speech. It's clear. It will be a difficult period for the Ukrainians, but I don't see, let's say, the Russians now in winter winning that war. I don't see this.